Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion, your host, the Hut, and we are back here at the Baseball Hut too, and hope you like this video and subscribe as we get close to 1,000 subscribers, and hopefully make a couple bucks on this channel. But anyway, as you know, the New York Mets are not performing as well as they should. They lost again to the Milwaukee Brewers on Wednesday. Mets owner Steve Cohen came out and said that he supports Billy Epler and Buck Showalter, the general manager and the manager. So they're not going anywhere. But he did say, which was rather interesting, that he does not see this team buying at the trade deadline if they continue to play as terribly as they've played. They are 8 games under 500, which is unfathomable considering this team won 101 games. This is a team that has not pitched well. This is a team that has really struggled to do what it needs to do on a day-in, day-out basis. That is very difficult to win games when your starting pitching is, well, quite frankly, giving up runs in the first inning and can't pitch more than 4 innings. When that happens, that is a recipe for disaster, and that is a recipe for constantly losing. So over the next month, this team will make some kind of assessment. If they continue to play like this, and in all likelihood they will be selling. So what does selling mean? It means they will be trading veteran players on contracts that are expiring. Some of the players I will discuss in this video momentarily, but to sort of give you a sort of an understanding of why the Mets signed certain players, in particular the pitchers, is because the Mets do not have much of a farm system in terms of bringing in young pitching up from the minor leagues. So that's why they signed guys like Max Scherzer, and they signed Justin Verlander. Now, they did not sign Jacob deGrom because they felt that he would not last the terms of a 5-year contract with his injury history. As you know, he is missing the entire season of 2023 due to Tommy John surgery, a second one. So the Mets were right on that. But the big reason they signed Scherzer and Verlander was because they do not have much of any pitching coming up to the farm. That's very important to understand. And it doesn't seem like that will be changing anytime soon over the next year or so, to be honest with you. But I'm going to go through some names. Some of them I'll run rather quickly. Obvious guys that aren't going anywhere. Francisco Alvarez, obviously he's not going anywhere. He's a young player. He needs to play. Pete Alonso, not going anywhere, even though he's got 1 year left on his contract for next year. I would assume they will try to negotiate some kind of a deal with him. Jeff McNeil, he's got a 5-year deal with the Mets. He's got to get his act together. The guy who won batting title last year, this guy's got a quality swing. He should be playing much better. Francisco Lindor, even though I've done videos on him, goofing on him, and basically saying that the Mets should trade him, he's not going anywhere at this point. Brett Beatty, again, another young player, has to play. Okay, here we go. Mark Canha. He has a contract for this year for $11.5 million. He has a team option for 2024, meaning that a team that trades for him, they might want to keep him for next year. All they got to do is pick up his option. He has been okay this year. Nothing special. He was much better last year. Brandon Nimmo, he's on the first year of an 8-year deal. He's not going anywhere. Starling Marte has not performed well at all offensively or defensively. He's got 2 more years on his contract. I do not believe he's going anywhere. Daniel Vogelbach, the Mets would behoove them to just release him. He is holding up a spot that could go to, say, someone like Ronnie Mauricio or Mark Vientos, because if they decide to sell, there's no reason to keep him here, and that he is holding down a spot that they could, they should get at Batson. Tommy Pham, the one guy that they signed in this offseason that is performing above his expectation. His OPS plus is at 117, meaning that he's 17% better than the average major leaguer. On Wednesday night, he has 8th home run, and he's got 31 RBIs. And this is on a part-time role. His OPS is 787. He's actually hit the ball extremely hard. He's been extremely impressive to watch. What could they get for him? The main thing the Mets need to do is start bringing in young pitching into this farm system. It is imperative that they do that. That is the number one thing that this team needs to do. For the draft in 2023, there is a belief that the draft will not have a very good group of pitchers in it. That mainly everyday players are the best part of the draft, and including young shortstops and whatnot. Eduardo Escobar, as you know, he got traded to the Angels last week. That was a bit of a surprise because he had been playing much better since he got off that horrific start early on in the season. So there's probably a good chance that we could see other deals with him included with other players. For instance, maybe a Tommy Pham goes to a team that has a pitching prospect. Maybe the Mets pick up a pitching prospect. But that's kind of what we're looking at. And they bought out a lot of the money that Escobar was making. Kodai Senga, not going anywhere. Tyler McGill, he's in the minor leagues. If you move Scherzer, for instance, he can come back to the majors. Max Scherzer, he's righted the ship a little bit. He's given up a lot of home runs. He's still finding it. He won his last 2 starts. He's 7-2. He has an opt-out in his contract. I don't believe wherever he goes, he will opt out. He does have a no trade clause. The rumor is that if the Mets are out of it and he wants to go to a place that has a chance to win, he will waive that no trade clause. That is much more. That's a very good chance of that happening. Teams that would be interested in him: the Dodgers, the Giants, possibly the Rangers. Teams like this that need another starter. I don't expect Mets to do any business with the Braves. Anybody writing to me saying that the Mets would be trading with the Braves is insane. They would never do that. Carlos Carrasco, he should be released. Why he's on this 26-man roster is beyond me. David Peterson, he pitched much better in his start on Tuesday, but it's against a weak team. He's not getting moved. They have to pitch him. He has to pitch here. Justin Verlander, I don't believe the Mets will move him. He's got a lot of money coming to him, and there's no opt-out for next year. So I don't believe that is a viable thing. Now, Scherzer, I could see the Mets paying the rest of this year's contract and next year's contract if the Mets get a prospect that they really want for Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer has value. And I think that value oversees whatever struggles he's had this year. There's still that reputation of quality. That reputation of quality goes a long way. Just because those Met fans are all pissed off at him, saying, well, who's going to want him? He's untradeable. He's tradable. If the Mets pay off the entire contract for this year and next year, they will do that. I would mention that the Mets are paying still Robinson Cano on this team. So Robbie Cano is still on the Met payroll, and he's not playing for the Mets. Just keep that in mind. They will do what needs to be done. This owner will not pull any punches when it comes to this team. David Robertson, he will get moved. And he has pitched really well. He's got a chance to make the All-Star team for the Mets. He's pitched really well. He's been very, very impressive. And the Cubs, when they traded him to the Phillies, got a very good prospect in return. So if the Mets hold out on him, they could get something of note. Adam Ottavino, I don't know what his value is. He's got another year on his contract. I don't know. Brooks Raley, keep an eye on him. Maybe the Mets move him. I am not too impressed with him, but he's pitched rather well. If you look at his numbers on face value, I could see the Mets moving him and getting something for him. This team is a major disappointment. As you can tell, the fact that I have to do a video about the Mets selling, and we're not even July 1st, tells you how poorly this team has played over the last really half of the season, the first half of the season. Their pitching has been terrible. Now, the owner said today that he's not firing Buck Showalter, he's not firing Billy Epler. I would hope that in the offseason that they decide to fire, at the very least, the pitching coach. The pitching coach has done a terrible job here for the last few years, in spite of the 101-win team that they had in 2022. Jeremy Hefner was the pitching coach in 20 and 21, and this year in 23, and this team has pitched horrifically, aside from last year. So that cannot be underscored in terms of his ability to get this team to stop walking batters. That is a major problem here. Is this the walk rate is just terrible, and they've given up so many home runs. That was a problem in 2020, and obviously that was a problem in 21, and it's popped its head up again in 2023. That is a major problem for this organization, to be able to improve the pitching, get in some younger pitchers, both in the bullpen and in your starting rotation. I would mention that the easiest way, most of the time, to improve your bullpen is through your organization. A lot of times when you make these big deals for relievers, it doesn't normally work out, and then you got to trade young players. It's just a struggle. Just looking at the ages of the Met relievers, David Robinson, 38, Adam Ottavino, 37, Jeff Brigham to some other team, is 31, Brooks Raley, 35. That's an old bullpen. That's an extremely old bullpen. Drew Smith, 29, Dominic Leone, 31. The youngest guy in that Met bullpen currently is Grant Hardwick. He's 25. But you have some very old relievers here, and that's a problem. This team is one of the oldest teams in baseball. It's the oldest team in baseball. It needs to get younger. It needs to bring in young pitching desperately. The focus should be, if this team does not get itself going in the next month, to trade these veteran players for young pitching and the bullpen and its starters. They've kind of done that with the Escobar deal. We'll have to see how this thing goes with Coleman Crowe. He's still on the IL, but he's a guy to keep an eye on. He was rated the Mets' 11th best prospect by MLB.com. But this team is in desperate straits long term to improve the starting pitching and the pitching overall. And like I said, the best way to improve your team and your bullpen is to go through your organization. It's easier, it's cheaper, and you can develop it much better. When you're bringing in these veterans, it's just an annoyance after a while, especially with the bullpen. I mean, you want to be able to remember in 2015 the Mets had Jeurys Familia became the closer. They developed the closer, and prior to that, they had Henry Mejia, and he was the closer for a year until he was suspended with PED use. But these guys were developed within the Mets organization. The best way to build a bullpen is through your farm system, because then you convert guys that have been starters into relievers. People don't know this. Jeurys Familia was a starter in the minor leagues, and the Mets converted him to a reliever when he came here. So you have to be able to sort of develop those guys through your farm. If you can't do that, it's not as easy a fix. Through free agency and trades, it just doesn't work out that way. Well, you let me know what you think about this video. I hate having to do it, but it's so important that this team gets younger, and it's the best way for them to get younger and to get some more pitching into this organization and onto this team. Well, thank you for watching the Baseball Hut 2. We're getting awfully close to 1,000, like I said. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.